Hello, my name is Mikhail Zygar. Every week I'm speaking to the unique guests, and today I'm going to interview Shirin Ebadi, the most prominent Iranian human rights activist and also the Nobel Prize winner of 2003. Hello, Dr. Ebadi. That's great to see you today. Thank you for your time.
Nice to meet you.
For the last month and even more, there are two most important topics in the world: the war in Ukraine and the protests in Iran, the protests of Iranian women. And recently, those two topics came together when Iran started supporting Russia in its war with Ukraine and sent drones to Kiev. And recently, Ukrainian politicians, members of Ukrainian parliament, demanded to denounce Iran as the terrorist state. What do you think of that? Do you consider Iran to be terrorist state?
بله متاسفانه همینطوره. دولت ایران پهپادهای انتحاری
Yes, sadly, that is the case. And not only the Iranian regime has been selling kamikaze drones to Russia, but it has also been financially supporting the Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen, and for many years now. And all of this is against international norms and regulations. As a result, yes, Iran should be considered a terrorist state. However, the people of Iran are against the policies of this government, and that is why they're on the streets protesting against the government at the moment.
You said a number of times that these protests can and should lead to the regime change in Iran. How do you think it will happen? Do you think that those protests could become violent and will lead to the revolution? Or will the authorities flee the country like Shah Reza Pahlavi? Or probably do you think there could be a coup and some part of the establishment would overthrow the Ayatollahs?
خیلی خوب.
فهمیدم. حالا جواب میدم. بگو که در حال حاضر
At present, the protests are taking place in over 100 towns and cities around the country and in force. It's still premature to predict what is going to happen in the future. What I can tell you for certainty is that the situation in Iran will never go back to how it was before these recent protests. Their government will never have the same power as it has had so far. But as I said, it's still premature to predict the future.
Sure. How did Iran and Iranian society change during all those weeks, during the last month of these protests? Has something changed psychologically in the society so it's irreversible?
Iranian people are very angry for 43 years. They have tried all peaceful means. They have tried dialogue. They've tried writing letters. They've tried voting, begging, whatever. It's fallen on deaf ears. It's been to no avail. The government is not listening to the people. In fact, it's a collection, amalgamation of all these pent-up demands of the Iranian people that suddenly has led them come to the streets and protest.
The whole world is admiring the courage of Iranian women, and sometimes people, for example, in Ukraine and in Russia, are comparing the behavior of women in Iran and men in Russia, because Russian people are not protesting against the war. And sometimes people say that Iranian women are much more brave than the Russian men. Why aren't Iranian women afraid? Why aren't Iranian people afraid? Because we know that up to 100 people have died already.
ببینید بیش از 50% از دانشجویان دانشگاه
Over 50% of students in our universities in Iran are girls. So these highly educated women have been subjected to discriminatory laws imposed on them by the regime since 1979 revolution. And I'll give you some examples of these discriminatory laws. For instance, a woman's life is considered to be worth half of that of a man. For instance, if my brother and I happen to be on the street, we are involved in a car crash, the court awards my brother twice as much in damages as it awards to me because I'm a woman. The testimony of two women is equal to the testimony of one man in a court of law. A man can have up to 4 wives. He can divorce them without any excuse, whereas it's very difficult for a woman to apply for a divorce, and sometimes it's actually impossible. So naturally, the Iranian women are very angry. They can no longer tolerate these laws that have been imposed on them since 1979. And they are showing their anger right now by appearing on the streets and protesting against the regime.
از هر فرصتی استفاده میکنن بیان بگن که ما اعتراض داریم.
We have probably Iran and Russia, Iranian regime and Russian regime have a lot in common, and we see that President Putin can use anything, any weapon to remain in power, and he will not leave his position, and he's almost ready, or it's just a speculation, but everyone is morally prepared for him to be close to using the atomic bomb. Do you think that Iranian authorities can use serious weapons against its own people, weapons of mass destruction, or I don't know, chemical weapon against the people of Iran?
تا امروز ایران که به اسلحه اتمی دسترسی پیدا نکرده.
To date, the Iranian government has not been able to have access to nuclear weapons, and I'm happy about that. I don't think any country in the world should be able to use nuclear weapons. But I can say for sure that the regime in Iran is extremely brutal, and in the past 43 years they have killed many innocent people. But as to the future, whether or not they will use any such weapons in the future, I cannot tell. And how much more brutal the regime will become, we have to wait for the future.
میزان شقاوت حکومت چقدره. فقط میتونم بگم تا الان تعداد زیادی رو طی این 43 سال کشتن.
And who are the leaders of today's protests in Iran? Or it seems like there is no obvious leader. How could it be possible? How all those protests are coordinated?
مردم یک لیدر واحد ندارن.
The Iranian people do not have a leader as such. There are many groups of young people who've formed who have coordinated their actions, and they're working together, but they have no leaders. The leaders are among the people. Once all this is over, when the Iranian people have free elections under the auspices of the United Nations, then they will choose a leader. So there's no need to worry about lack of leadership at present.
Do you expect some help from abroad? Iran has been sanctioned for many years, for many decades, and probably it's not much the West can now do to put pressure on Iran. What more the global community can do?
مهمترین چیزی که
The first and most important demand of the Iranian people is from the West that they should expel the Iranian ambassadors in their respective countries, and they should recall their own ambassadors from Iran, and they should reduce the level of the diplomatic relations with Iran from ambassadorial level to that of charge d'affaires.
Okay, Iranian opposition has a long experience of struggle from abroad. Do you think that it's possible? It's really possible to be in touch and to affect on the situation inside the country, living from abroad, as now Russian opposition is trying to do the same as Iranian opposition did it for many years?
بله کاملا امکان پذیره و opposition.
Yes, in my view, I think that's very important, and it is definitely possible to be effective. For the opposition abroad, they can be their most important duties to disseminate news and reports about the Iranian opposition's protests in Iran and speak to Western governments about the situation in the country. Yes, I think they play a very important part.
Don't you think that the new military alliance between Russia and Iran can strengthen Iran, and even more, Putin being the most evil leader in today's world is in a way helping Iran, because he is distracting the global attention from the crimes of Iranian regime?
پوتین رو خیلی الان در قدرت
I don't see Putin in a position of power at the moment. If Putin was so powerful, he would not be buying missiles and drones from the Iranian regime. So, no, I don't think that Putin will be able to help the Iranian regime kill its people.
And what is the role of the religion in today's Iranian society? Is its reputation and the power of this institution lowered? Is it no longer important for the younger Iranians, younger generation?
حکومت ایران استبداد دینیه و انقدر
The regime we have in Iran is a despotic theocracy. So in the name of religion, they have harassed people, they have imprisoned them, and they have killed them. So as a result, the Iranian people have all become secular. And at the moment, what the Iranian people want is a secular and democratic country.
You are a lawyer, a very famous lawyer. You used to be a judge, the first female judge in Iran, and your reputation in that field, in the field of law, is very important. I know that a lot of lawyers who had to emigrate from Russia now are thinking of new laws for the future of Russia, probably for the constitution that could be adopted in Russia after Putin. Do you have something similar in mind? Are you working on the future Iranian constitution? Do you have a plan how Iranian state should look like after the new revolution?
Yes, I myself and many other human rights lawyers in Iran, we are actually thinking about this issue, and we prepared ourselves for that.
And can you describe which form of the state are you preparing for?
اون چه که مردم ایران میخواهند حکومتی دموکرات و سکولاره. نوع رژیم رو
The nature of the regime will only be determined by the people in a referendum. That is when they will decide whether they want a monarchy, whether they want a republic, whether they want a parliamentary regime, whether they want a multi-party regime. But it's the people who will decide, but they will decide when we have a secular and democratic government.
As you are not living in Iran since 2009, probably you were thinking of, or maybe dreaming of that day when you will be able to come back. Can you tell me about those plans, and can you describe that day when you come back? And what will you do next? What is your dream about your life in Iran?
من امیدوارم که به ایران برگردم و اگر به ایران برگردم.
Yes, I hope to return to Iran, but when I return to Iran, my role will be that of a defense lawyer for victims of human rights violations. I do not see any other role for myself than that.
You know, all Russians who are fighting against Putin at the same time are afraid of some kind of bloody civil war that can happen after the fall of current regime in our country. Are there such fears in Iranian society that it could fall apart, or some tensions could start and it could be a civil war in your country?
I very much hope that the regime change will take place in Iran without any bloodshed. But as I said earlier, I cannot predict the future. But I very much hope it will not be a bloody one.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and for your expertise. And I hope that that day we were speaking about will, when you come back to Iran and protect your people from Tehran, will come very soon.
Thank you, and I hope democracy for both Iran and Russia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.